From the rise of the highest paid YouTube stars to the fall of Better.com CEO Vishal Garg and everything in between, here are the most interesting stories of January 2022.
If you've ever wondered where your mutt came from or what health issues your dog might run into down the line, you're not alone. Embark is a dog DNA testing company that made it onto Forbes' next billion-dollar startups list this year. The company was started by Ryan Boyko, a canine geneticist, and his younger brother Adam, who has a master's degree in public health.
I was interested in dog genetics about 8 years before I founded the company. I started a project with my brother, actually, to go around the world and collect DNA from dogs around the world so we could better understand where they came from, how they spread across the globe, because they are this unique bond. They have this unique bond with people. You can go on our website or Amazon, Chewy, places like that, order a test and it'll show up at your door. And then it's just a simple cheek swab. So for 30 seconds, you swab your dog's cheek. There's instructions, videos, all of that to make it easy. Drop it in the mailer that we provide, and in about 2 to 3 weeks, you'll get your results. So you get an email that says your results are ready. There's the health results and then the breed results. And then even after that, we update you with new relatives for your dog, sometimes add new health tests and all of that. To understand the biggest problems that afflict dogs, cancers and hip dysplasia, all of that, you really need 1 million or more dogs in a database so that you can find these complex genetic associations. It's not just one gene, it's many genes coming together. And there just wasn't money available via academic channels to build that kind of database of dogs. You could maybe get a few thousand dogs. And at the same time, we saw 23andMe's success in the market, and we also saw, as we tried to recruit dogs for these studies that my brother was doing in his lab, that lots and lots of people were like, yes, I want to do this, and what else can you tell me about my dog? And the answer was, well, we're an academic lab, we can't really tell you anything about our dog. All of that kind of came together and coalesced in this idea that we could provide people with actionable information now, with interesting information now. We could provide breeders with tools that would actually help breed longer-lived, healthier dogs right now, and at the same time be building a database of information that's going to allow us to make discoveries that help dogs live longer in the future.
The company launched in 2015. This year, they expect to make $72 million in revenue, up nearly 50% from $50 million last year.
Breeders, for one, use us as part of a core part of their breeding program. So, of course, they are in some ways these artists, essentially, who are trying to breed a dog for some purpose, whether it's to be the ideal family pet or to win Westminster or to be a great herding dog, whatever it is. But underlying all of that is the need for dogs that are healthy, dogs that live a long time. And so this is really a tool where they can take all the other tools that they do to breed for those things while using us to make sure they're also doing that in light of what would make the healthiest dog. About a third of our users say that after they get our results, a third of just average pet owners, when they get our results, say they change at least something about their dog's care routine, whether it's diet or exercise or training or toys or whatever it is. And many of the things that we do test for, most of the health conditions we find in dogs, there is something that you can do, whether from changing diet to changing the environment to that kind of thing, in order to reduce their risk.
Ryan says they stand apart because they test more thoroughly than other DNA kits on the market.
About 3 years ago now, we launched the first ever canine relative finder. Dogs are born together in a litter. Usually those siblings and parents are in the same geographic area. And so in lots of cases, people decide to meet up and they have these amazing stories of their dogs meet and they seem to already know each other and play and all of that.
The company is worth around $700 million and is looking at how to use its growing genomic database to improve canine health and longevity as it grows.
We are in this for the dogs. At the same time, we have had conversations with companies that are really interested in human health, and there are definitely conditions, because they've shared our environment for so long and they share certain traits with us, where they are a really, really good model for them in a human sense. So the idea here, though, is we would never use dogs as research subjects like rats in the lab or something. We would be trying to help dog health, and a nice byproduct of that could be that some of the advances made in dog health may be able to be translated into human medicine as well. We, believe that the test should become the standard of care for all dogs. Things like predisposition to get bladder stones, where you can feed the dog a different diet and avoid that, instead of now what happens is you learn it the hard way, basically, when your dog is in a lot of pain and unable to urinate and you have to take them to an emergency vet, and it's both painful and costly to learn that information. And here you can learn it much more cheaply and actually do something about it before it becomes a problem.
In early December, Better.com CEO Vishal Garg fired about 900 employees via Zoom.
And I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried.
But this wasn't the first time the tech leader landed in hot water for his leadership style. A 2020 Forbes investigation found that Better employees have long complained about Garg's leadership, and ongoing lawsuits accuse Garg or entities he controls of improper and even fraudulent activities at 2 prior business ventures, including allegations of misappropriating tens of millions of dollars. Vishal Garg was born in India and moved to Queens with his family in his early childhood. As a teen in New York, he attended the prestigious Stuyvesant High School and then NYU. A serial entrepreneur, Garg ran a few companies until he founded Better.com in 2013.
So Better has had a lot of success, and it obviously hit a nerve, especially among home buyers, because going through the mortgage process is such a pain, and it's really a Byzantine sort of process that, really was ripe for disrupting. So when Better came in and said, we can offer you pre-approval and loans within, a few minutes, it really sort of changed the space. And as a result of that, it became incredibly successful. Investors looked to pour in, hundreds of millions of dollars. And by the end of 2020, the company is valued at $4 billion, which really paved the way for Vishal to be seen as quite a revolutionary fintech leader.
Better's success prompted Forbes reporters to look into the successful startup and its founder and CEO. What they found were lawsuits that had followed Garg for years.
There was allegations of fraud, misappropriation of funds, and breaching of fiduciary duties. There was also an allegation that Garg had used misappropriated funds to seed and fund Better as it started. Going back into Garg's history, we found that he had a former friend that he'd met at Stuyvesant High School named Raza Khan, and they had been, close friends. They went to NYU together, and after graduating from college, they started a company called My Rich Uncle, which was a very successful student loan provider in the early 2000s. It became one of the largest, student loan providers in the country, until the financial crash in 2008 cut off access to more funding. So the company had to shut down.
Shortly after, Garg and Khan started EIFC, which managed private student loans and mortgage-backed securities.
They had some success in that, but this is about the time when their relationship started to fall apart, and Raza filed a lawsuit against Vishal Garg, accusing him of misappropriating several $1 million from the company. At the same time, Vishal countersued Raza, and basically the two men became locked in a years-long legal dispute over how money was used at EIFC. As the court battle drew on, it became so bitter that during one deposition, Vishal actually threatened to burn Raza alive.
Garg apologized for his outburst, but denies Khan's claim. But Garg has also been accused by investors of mismanaging funds related to mortgage portfolios. In 2011, Garg recruited investors to take over a mortgage portfolio through a series of businesses set up in the Cayman Islands. The plan was to use EIFC's software to identify toxic mortgages, then reap huge settlements from the banks that issued them. The investors, which include PIMCO and Goldman Sachs, accuse Garg of moving settlement money into accounts he controls instead of paying out the funds to investors. The total sum that Garg's companies allegedly did not disclose to debtors remains unclear, though filings in the ongoing case pegged a figure in the tens of millions of dollars. Garg himself is not being sued, but is identified in court filings as the person in control of the entities named as defendants.
So after our investigation was published in 2020, the company only grew from there, and this shored up the company to effectively go public by the end of 2021. And everything looked quite sunny for the company until the day after they announced that funding round.
I come to you with not great news.
Pandemonium ensued, and after these news reports came out, Vishal then went on to disparage many of these employees to the existing employees and calling them lazy.
Following the controversy, reports began to circulate about Garg's treatment of employees and comments he's made about Better's investors. Forbes also reported conflicts of interest Garg has in relation to Better, namely that he owns or holds a majority stake in companies that contract with Better.com. Finally, Better announced that Garg would be stepping back as CEO and he was placed on indefinite leave. Better also decided to delay its planned SPAC merger until 2022.
Vishal Garg really embodied what it meant to be a machismo, tech CEO. From people who I've spoken to, sitting across the table from Vishal, he could, sell ice to Eskimos. Like, he was an incredibly charming man, and this is a characteristic that is shared by a lot of these successful tech entrepreneurs. They also, do have a high tolerance for risk, and sometimes that tolerance for risk does end in legal matters. And it did come as little surprise to us that Vishal ended up in the scenario that he is in now.
So from day one Bumble all the way to now, our mission statement has not changed all that much. We've always been in the business and in the mission of helping drive healthy and equitable relationships. And we originally started by putting women in control of the conversation and in control of sending that first message in an effort to recalibrate these power dynamics in relationships. And we've always been in the quest to really help engineer better and kinder behavior on the internet at large. Your brand really forms around your mission. And I think that if you are really true to your mission and you stay very rooted to achieving that mission, your brand and your values and your culture and everything else really start to form around that. So of course, we've had a lot of ups and downs along the way, which any entrepreneur will have, and you can never expect for the journey to be perfect or linear or easy. But if you really just try to say, what is my Northern Star? Where do I really put that pin in the map? And work backwards from that every single day, no matter how big or small the task is, your brand will really start to form around it. The early Bumble customer was really women that we could identify with. It was looking at women that were going through similar struggles, right? I had experienced a lot of harassment on the internet, and I had also experienced what I felt were inequitable exchanges in relationships. And so I was really on this quest to recalibrate the way I felt. Anyone that is starting a business is generally trying to solve some type of problem that they've lived through. And when you're going through a problem, there's a very big chance that others are going through that same challenge. And so that was really how we started out, by identifying the early audience. And we're really so motivated and so inspired by the opportunity to take this to all new demographics and new audiences on a global level. You have to be willing to be receptive to feedback. And usually the customer will give you the best feedback because they are not worried about hurting your feelings. And they are the ones that are actually troubleshooting in a very genuine way. And so early on throughout Bumble, and still to this day, our customer drives the majority of the changes and innovations that we make. Very early on Bumble, women had to make the first move in 24 hours. However, for heterosexual matches, the man could respond whenever. There was no time set. And this was a misstep on our part. But it was the customer base that told us and said, hey, this doesn't feel fair. This doesn't feel equitable. please change this. And so we did immediately. And so that's just one very small example of how you have to be receptive to feedback and you have to listen. And the customer will be your greatest guiding light. They actually were the ones that set the stage for Bumble BFF early on. And we're really excited to see what they come up with next. As a founder and as a CEO, it is on you as an entrepreneur to be able to decipher what matters most. And so we've always really tried to make informed decisions for the mission, even if it meant sacrificing a huge growth opportunity or a short-term win, really saying, how do we stay the course for the long term? How do we make the best decision for the customer in the long term that will not impede on our mission and values in any way? Truly, people want to invest in authenticity and in a genuine mission. And so just always stay rooted to that and never shift gears for what you might think someone wants to hear. Just stay very true to your brand and to your mission at all times. The prioritization of yourself or different components of your life when you're starting a business can feel almost impossible. And I am certainly not the poster child for the perfect work-life balance over the years, but what I've realized is your business is only as healthy and happy and successful as your team. And you as a founder, you as an entrepreneur, you are part of that team. And so it's important to stay strong for everybody else as well, but for yourself. So we've really put a huge emphasis on this year, going through these very unprecedented, challenging times with the pandemic and working from home. Now it is really not just a nice to have, but it is actually foundational to our business to make sure our team is prioritizing work-life balance. And we've rolled out a whole new suite of benefits, and we are going to continuously improve in this category. And my advice to founders is you don't have to wait until you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into a business. You don't have to burn the candle at both ends. It's not the most productive long-term strategy. And so even if you're starting a company right now, make this a priority today, not years from now.
I was drawn to Stronghold Digital Mining because they have such an unusual approach to mining Bitcoin. What they do that's so different from other miners is they take the waste that's left over from mining coal. It's mostly rock with a little bit of coal mixed in that these coal miners have just discarded over decades and centuries. Stronghold is based near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which has a 150-year history of mining the coal that was turned into not just electricity, but also the steel that built America's bridges and battleships and cars and tanks and everything. And these piles of coal waste consist of literally billions of tons that are just piled up in mountains in Western Pennsylvania. And for decades, these mountains of coal waste have been leaching heavy metals and other toxins into the groundwater. And what they found is that, there's still a lot of energy left in these piles. And if you have the right kind of power plant, a very robust power plant that can handle this material, you can burn it, you can turn it into electricity, and sure, there's carbon dioxide emissions involved here, but what they say they're doing is good for the environment because they're cleaning up a source of pollution that otherwise would be cost prohibitive to deal with. So they get subsidies, tax subsidies from the state of Pennsylvania to clean up this coal, turn it into electricity, and turn it into Bitcoin.
So we are I think we're the largest now vertically integrated Bitcoin miner in North America. We literally have tens of thousands of Bitcoin miners, which are really the equivalent of, computers or servers.
We are, I feel, the only aggressively environmental power company in existence. We don't just use a renewable, we actually actively clean up the environment because we've have over 230 years of commercial mining in Pennsylvania. And through that time period, They have left an environmental nightmare on the ground. All of the material that we clean up was brought up from underground and is the waste of coal mining.
The business was going so well that earlier in 2021, they held an IPO, and now they're a publicly traded company, Stronghold Digital Mining. Their market cap is roughly $350 million here at the end of the year, but a few months ago, they were worth as much as $700 million. The critics of a company like Stronghold would say, you've got to be out of your mind to still be using coal waste to make a Bitcoin, because when they burn this stuff, it does generate quite a lot of carbon dioxide, which we really don't need any more of. Pennsylvania recognizes that what they're doing is beneficial to the people of Western Pennsylvania, so they can access quite a number of subsidies for what they're doing. I was really impressed by Bill Spence's story of growing up among these piles of coal waste. He and his friends would just play on them all day long, and he feels like this contributed to his cancer and cancer that his family members have suffered as well.
I lived amongst and around these coal piles. My father had cancer, his father had cancer, I've had cancer. I directly attribute it to the environment I grew up on. Everybody in my family, on the male side of my family, has died in their 60s. As I was laying in the intensive care unit at 59 years old, and as I was laying there, I started to laugh. I thought, well, be careful what you wish for. I'm not even going to make it to 60 years old. So I've had a pretty significant commitment with my life to clean up this waste pile and be an advocate and proponent for these communities. We owe these communities because they gave so much to America and to the world, I might add. I feel that they need somebody who's lucky enough to be in the position I am to fight for them and make a difference. People basically turn a blind eye to the problem, and we're calling attention to that problem, and we're also making a proactive, obvious effort to clean it up.
Stronghold is a really important example of Bitcoin miners that are trying to find environmentally friendly ways to create Bitcoin. You know, you don't want to just make Bitcoin out of any electricity. You want to use marginal sources of electricity that might otherwise go to waste. We've already started to see Bitcoin miners who are trying to use nuclear power plants, zero carbon nuclear power to make Bitcoin. But short of that, it really does appear that using this coal waste to make Bitcoin should be considered a relatively clean way of generating cryptocurrency.
I'm excited about being part of the solution, and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin mining, that's a big part of it. And I think Stronghold's future, it'll be long, because I think the problem is decades to clean up. I think there's something like 30 years of waste coal left to clean up. And so, we need to think, even beyond Bitcoin. Should we be building this to be a multi-use data center? And I think we're contemplating now how to be better and smarter than many of our competitors might be, that are just sort of, unidimensional. And I think we're doing it because we really started as reclamation folks.
2021 was a record year for initial public offerings. 2,388 firms raised $453 billion while going public, the highest annual deal volume ever. And this year could very well break those records. Here are the IPOs we're planning to watch in 2022. Reddit, the 16-year-old social media juggernaut behind last year's explosive meme stock frenzy, has reportedly been eyeing a $15 billion valuation after a massive funding round in August. Reddit confidentially filed paperwork to go public this year, but disclosed no financial details and said it still hasn't determined how much it's looking to raise. Another media company we'll be monitoring closely, Trump Media, which is yet to release a working product and plans to go public this year via SPAC. Regulators are already pouncing on the move, with the SEC initiating an investigation into stock trading and high-level communications last month. No one's been accused of wrongdoing, but it's unclear how this will affect Trump's latest money-making venture. Also of note is Discord, which was originally founded in 2015 to make it easier for gamers to talk to each other while playing video games. However, the app gained notoriety as users began using the platform for nefarious reasons. But Discord has since instituted new policies and roles, completely rebranded, and now has an estimated 150 million active users. And though the online chat service has yet to make an official announcement, investors have been eyeing an IPO since the company ended acquisition talks with Microsoft in April. We all know Instacart as the popular grocery delivery service that got even more popular during the pandemic. The company was hoping to go public last year, but their new CEO delayed plans in order to broaden services beyond simple delivery and delve deeper into advertising. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Its competitor, DoorDash, had shares plunge about 15% since the first day of trading in December 2020, but Instacart has a big advantage as retailers can promote their products in search results. And another one in food, vegan firm Impossible has raised nearly $2 billion since its founding in 2011 and can now be found in more than 22,000 grocery stores. Reports indicate the company is eyeing a $10 billion valuation, signaling real competition for fellow fake meat maker Beyond, which listed on the Nasdaq in 2019 and is worth about $5 billion. And then in the world of finance, there's Stripe, the payment processor founded by billionaire brothers Patrick and John Collison. For more than a year, the company has been teasing an IPO to rev up growth with fresh public market cash. The PayPal competitor was reportedly talking to investment banks in September about a market debut this year. If the founders decide to take the plunge, Stripe could easily become one of the largest IPOs to hit the market. Another one to watch in the space is Chime, the digital bank based in San Francisco. The company has held talks to go public at a valuation of $35 to $45 billion as soon as March. And lastly, there's TPG. The private equity powerhouse was founded by billionaires James Coulter and David Bonderman and holds outsized stakes in talent agency CAA, Vice Media, and Spotify. In late December of 2021, the firm announced plans to list on the Nasdaq exchange, disclosing recently that it hopes to raise as much as $1 billion in gross proceeds at a valuation of $9.5 billion in what's sure to be one of the year's biggest public market debuts.
Being a referee is a very empowering job because I get to yell at people and they have to listen to me. It's kind of nice to be able to get in people's faces, but ultimately our number one job is helping the wrestlers tell a story. And if I'm getting in a wrestler's face, we probably talked about it ahead of time. My name is Brittany Aubert, but most people probably know me as Aubrey Edwards, referee for All Elite Wrestling. I grew up in Northern California. I was a classical ballet dancer since I was 9 years old. And ever since I was little, I wanted to make video games. So I moved up to Seattle, went to a school called DigiPen Institute of Technology, got my 4-year bachelor's in computer science. My biggest claim to fame is I was a project lead on Scribblenauts, which was on Nintendo DS. We were a Wii launch title. I worked on that game for about 6.5 years, various different iterations of it. Most people end up watching wrestling as a kid, and that's not something I did. My dad said it was stupid and that it's fake and you shouldn't watch it. But I first watched wrestling WrestleMania 27. A couple friends of mine had a party, and I literally have no idea what's going on. I'm like, this is okay, I guess. And that was the moment that got my husband back into it. He was a fan when he was younger, so he started watching it, and one day I come home from work and he says, hey, you gotta watch this thing that happened. And it was June, about 10 years ago, where CM Punk does his famous pipe bomb promo. And from that moment, I was hooked. And I think part of that is because I had been a ballet dancer for so long, I immediately saw the performance aspect of it. Wrestling is really the only form of entertainment that has the relationship with the audience it does. The crowd is interacting, the crowd is booing the bad guys and cheering the good guys, and performers have the opportunity to respond to that, and that doesn't happen anywhere else. So it was absolutely fascinating, and I fell in love with it. I was been working on games professionally for near 10 years, and I was looking at retiring from ballet. My body was destroyed for mental health reasons. I just needed to step away. And after leaving that, I got super depressed because performing, turns out, was a very big form of how I coped with a lot of emotion. So I needed something new, and someone came to me and said, hey, we have this indie wrestling show that I was a fan of and I attended every week. We think you should be a referee. And I said, why would I want to do that? That sounds so silly. Like, all they do is yell at people, whatever. So I tried it, I was terrible. I tried it again, I was a little bit better. And a month and a half later, I did my first show. 2 years later, I'm here. A professional wrestling referee is a very unique role in that a lot of people think we're just someone who officiates and enforces rules, when in actuality we have what seems like 12 jobs in a given moment. Yes, we're enforcing rules, but the rules are there to service the story. We're also in charge of helping the production of a television show. We're live on TV for 2 hours. We gotta be off the air at 9:59, and part of that is me communicating where we are in the show based on the times I'm getting from the back of my earpiece to the wrestlers so they can adjust accordingly and we can stick to the confines of what we're given to tell that story. I really like the punctuality of we have to be on the air at 8 and we have to be off the air then. So for me, it's just a different format of, instead of following the schedule on a spreadsheet, you're following the schedule based on what Tony tells you. Day of television, I wake up, I hit the gym. I don't think a lot of people understand how in shape you have to be as a referee. Hangman Adam Page and Bryan Danielson go an hour, but I don't think people realize that Paul Turner was in there for an hour as well. And that's a lot to ask of a referee because you're reacting constantly to everybody and every movement that's happening. I'll end up hitting the venue pretty early. I get in the makeup chair first because there's a lot of girls that day and I know I'm on the show and I just want to get in and get out. I do a lot of just trying to communicate to people backstage as the wrestlers are figuring things out. We're meeting up with them, talking about finishes, talking about specific spots, different camera angles. We're working with the coaches to figure out what are the story elements we want to see. And it's just a lot of throwing a bunch of things at the wall and hoping it all sort of works out. A single day, we're filming a 2-hour episode of live television, but I mean, it's a 12 to 13-hour day for us.
So today is the debut of Dynamite on TBS. And one of the things that I'm personally excited about, I even did my nails to match it, is the TBS Championship. So this has been a tournament we've had with the women's division, and I am very honored to be the person that will be reffing that match. Reffing the match itself is not terrifying. It's the act of, okay, I have this belt, I show it to people, now I need to make sure it's not held upside down. So that's that little panic attack that every ref has. It would still look good upside down. It's a very interesting thing being a woman in this role because at the same time, I don't want to be seen as a woman in this role, but I also know what it means to be in the prominent position I am. Coming from another male-dominated industry like video games, it's something that's sort of been on my mind my entire adult life, that there's not a lot of women and what we're doing is super important for representation's sake and giving other women opportunities. AEW is a very interesting place because to me, I don't think about it like I'm just there yelling at dudes who play fight in their underwear. I'm not really thinking about like, you know, what it means for me to be my gender in this role, but hearing the responses from parents, especially on Twitter, saying like, my kids are watching you and saying, I want to be her when I grow up. And that's just really, really like, I had no idea, right? But now I see the impact that I'm having in wrestling, and that's really great. Something like being the first woman to ref a main event title match at a pay-per-view. We didn't do that so we could check the box. Like both Jericho and Hangman asked me to do that match because they wanted me specifically to do it.
Something about her just stood out, that she had kind of star quality, which isn't super important for a ref, but it is to me. I thought she was the best person for the job, and I thought combining that with the fact that it's the first time ever using a female in this high profile position would be a really cool kind of a 1-2 punch, forward thinking type of an idea, because in the past you would never consider having a woman referee a guy's match. Why, I don't know, but I thought it was time to change that in 2019, and that's what we did.
Regardless of what it is you're doing, whether it's a male-dominated field or not, that doing the best job that you possibly can is the absolute most important thing. The fact that I'm a woman is just extra bonus.
I believe it's sort of change or die. It's quick or dead, in a business like ours and in many businesses. And so sitting around and waiting for changes to happen, not a good idea. So, first of all, you want to be really attuned to what's going on and understand all the change factors and how the environment's evolving and what you need to do to not only stay relevant, but increase your relevance to the customers that you're serving. And that may involve some pretty radical changes, right, to your business. And speed is really important. Business cycles are only getting faster as the role of technology plays a bigger impact on everything. And so, you've got to kind of imagine what it's going to look like in 3 or 5 years when you're successful, and you better go make it happen now. If you're fearful and you don't like change, don't go work in the tech sector, right? Because you won't be happy. I mean, we used to do this thing where we would, people would come in and they'd, apply to work, and we'd say, hey, how do you like ambiguity? How do you like change? If they don't like it, well, don't even apply, right? You're not going to be happy in a company like this. And look, I think the reality is that every industry is becoming a tech industry, and the rate of change is increasing. And you just have to accept it. And, fear, embracing risk, you have to get comfortable with all of that because, that's the world we live in. When I look out and see everything in the world becoming intelligent, and by that I mean, small microcontrollers and microprocessors embedded in every physical thing in the world, and all of those things becoming connected with 5G and enormous amounts of data, and then the AI applied to the data, the opportunity to sort of reimagine every part of the economy and society, and the cost of making these things connected, intelligent, coming way down, that is just going to provide a Cambrian explosion of opportunity as people reimagine all sectors of the economy and society. So super excited about that. The last 30 or 40 years have been amazing in technology, but I think it's just a pre-game show to what is about to come. In our business, we try to understand what are the unsolved problems that customers have and how can we go address those? How do we inspire and engage our team members to be excited about the mission of what we're doing? How do we get organized to make sure we execute and deliver and create value for our customers, which ultimately creates value for the company? And I think it's really important to have a purpose and idea that you're pursuing that people believe in, that is beyond just okay, we're going to make these numbers happen or something, right? And when you put all that together and you're in a part of the industry or society that is meaningfully contributing, people are energized by it. They have a reason to get up out of bed every morning and go make stuff happen. Don't be afraid. Be willing to take risk. Imagine what the future could be like, and think about the opportunities differently, than others. And we've taken some pretty big risks, people would say. As I thought about those moments, they didn't seem like enormous risks to me, and been generally proven to be correct about that. But everybody has a different risk appetite. Go back to the origins of the company and how we evolved, at various stages into, serving, larger customers, expanding around the world, providing services to our customers, expanding into the data center and cloud business, into software, going private, and buying EMC and VMware, and going public again. And, I think those are all pivotal moments, and it's been a lot of fun.
Want to guess how much the highest paid YouTuber earned last year? Like and subscribe to our Forbes YouTube channel to find out. Just kidding. So the highest paid YouTuber in history is MrBeast.
So we're about to take things to the extreme.
He earned a record-breaking $54 million in 2021. In the past year, he has spent 50 hours buried alive, offered $10,000 to anyone willing to sit in a bathtub of snakes, and hosted his own version of Squid Game. Number 2 is Jake Paul, one of YouTube's biggest names until a controversy in 2017. But he's back on the list with earnings of $21.8 million. Nearly 3/4 of that comes from his newfound career in boxing. Nowadays, Jake posts less frequently than he once did, using the site mostly to market his boxing career.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier.
Markiplier first became famous by recording himself playing video games. Few social media stars can move merch like Markiplier, who saw especially strong sales tied to his Eunice Honest series. In 2021, he filmed a television adaptation of The Edge of Sleep, a popular post-apocalyptic thriller he initially dramatized as a podcast in 2019. The project still needs a home, and he's hoping to sell the series to a company like Netflix or Hulu later this year.
Good Mythical Morning!
Rhett and Link started off hosting Good Mythical Morning, a daily talk show that has grown into something of a mythical empire. One of their most successful efforts is Mythical Kitchen, a cooking series with a separate host. In October, they satisfied a longtime fan request to drop their family-friendly act, hosting a 2-hour, decidedly R-rated live stream event, to which they sold 70,000 tickets for as much as $50 a pop. Number 5 is Unspeakable. Over 20 million people subscribe to his 4 YouTube channels, where he posts videos of himself playing Minecraft and other games. He also dabbles with YouTube's stunt subgenre, doing things like filling a room with live alligators. Last year, Unspeakable also sold off his catalog of YouTube videos to Spotter, one of the largest independent owners of YouTube content. The youngest YouTuber on this year's list is Nastya, a 7-year-old originally from southern Russia. She also recently sold her catalog of YouTube videos to Spotter. She retains the right to any new videos she puts up though. Top hits from 2021 include her videos about decorating Halloween cupcakes and about spending time with her best friends, Evelyn and Adrian. In the meantime, she and her corporate minders have added other brand extensions including a merchandise line and an NFT collection. Another incredibly successful child on this list is 10-year-old Ryan Kaji, who's been making videos since he was 4. Now that he's aging out of playtime, his parents and the others guarding his business interests, including former Disney executive Chris Williams, are increasingly focused on keeping his brand alive. Ryan's Worlds maintains 31 million subscribers on YouTube, and an enormous line of branded merchandise and toys sold at big box retailers like Target and Walmart. Red Titan, a child superhero with a crimson cape and a passing resemblance to Ryan, has become well known enough to appear as a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade balloon for the past 2 years. Dude Perfect is number 8, with the sports comedy fivesome doing wild stunts like bench pressing 405 pounds underwater and walking on a biplane's wings mid-flight. The group will do their 3rd live tour this summer in 24 cities. They also published a 250-page photo-filled book complete with step-by-step instructions. At the number 9 spot is Jake Paul's brother, Logan. He returned to the list thanks to a successful year as a boxer, fighting former world champion Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition. Logan has also had one of the first celebrity NFT releases last February, a sale that did over $5 million. Number 10 is Preston Arsman. He runs several YouTube channels, but the name of his most popular one, Preston Plays, says all you really need to know about it. The guy plays a lot of video games, mostly Minecraft. Collectively, these 10 YouTubers earned about $300 million in 2021. To pad their pay further, all these stars have branded merchandise lines and dabble in generating additional revenue off of Twitch, Snap, Facebook, podcasts, NFTs, and even restaurants.
Alchemy is sort of a crypto infrastructure company. It aims to be what's known as the Amazon Web Services of Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is a term used to describe different types of applications and software programs that run on top of blockchains instead of the centralized servers that operate Google and Facebook and those types of companies.
Amazon has 2 businesses. They have their shopping business and they have another business. And that business is called Amazon Web Services. And it powers pretty much every product on the internet. And it's actually 2/3 of Amazon's profits and over $1 trillion company on its own. Alchemy is the same thing as these developer platforms, but for the blockchain industry. We power, virtually every NFT in the world, the majority of the large companies in the space, and we enable people to build applications on the blockchain.
Alchemy calls itself the Amazon Web Services of crypto because, as opposed to offering a consumer-focused product, they offer a business-to-business service with a software stack that helps developers easily build applications that run on top of these blockchains. The blockchain networks and the applications need to find a way to talk to each other and interact, and Alchemy provides a handy out-of-the-box solution to make that simple so developers can focus on building intuitive and fun applications for users.
When we started, our total market size, not our revenue, was like $5 million. If you really squinted, you could see it as $10 million. So it was very early, but we said, look, we have a chance to build one of these developer platforms that could really power the space, and this is what we're excited about doing. So that's how Alchemy started.
Alchemy is a relatively small company. It has under 50 employees, but I don't think that it's very unusual in Silicon Valley. The company did raise a significant amount of money this year. I believe its valuation now is at $3.5 billion. And I anticipate the company scaling up and out as it tries to put the money to good use, protect its market share, and grow into other verticals. Probably this time last year, it was like $100 million valuation, and it just went up because everything in crypto has gone crazy. The large valuation really is a reflection of the excitement and growing usage of blockchains this year, be it NFTs, be it DeFi applications. More and more users are getting involved in crypto. They are participating and using blockchain applications to buy and sell assets, play games, store data, and all of that has to operate on software that's secure, resilient, and efficient. Alchemy, through its solution to help applications run on top of blockchains, is in a very critical point. In many ways, it is a keystone to the crypto ecosystem. So I would expect that the growth of the company's valuation would be highly correlated to overall adoption in crypto.
Right now, we do about $30 billion in transactions for pretty much every country in the world and tens of millions of users around the planet. And most NFTs in the world are powered by Alchemy. Over the next several years, what we really hope to do is help grow and expand the blockchain industry and really bring this technology to everyone around the planet.
Blockchains can be difficult to interact with. And on top of that, many applications today, be it an exchange, a marketplace, a payments program, a data storage company, there's a different set of challenges when it comes to building an application that will run on top of a chain like Ethereum versus one such as Algorand or Cardano or Solana. And Alchemy makes those things simple so that the teams building these products are able to focus on what they do best. A lot of the early programmers would just build their applications directly on top of the blockchains, and Alchemy, I think, represents a maturity in the space where this type of middleware is now important.
From a young age, I knew I wanted to do software, building consumer products. Then what happened is we had seen crypto and blockchain. And there was when you look at these big shifts in technology, the computer, the internet, blockchain, each one gives you a new building block. The computer enables you to say, machines can now follow human instructions. Never before was that possible. Internet gives you a new building block, and that building block is the ability for machines to exchange information. Blockchain comes along and says, okay, now machines can exchange value. We saw that and said, if you were early in the industry, you have the chance to build a really foundational company, like an Apple, Microsoft did for the computing industry. We didn't know if it was going to be big, but we said it could be big, and we have a thought that it could be big.
One of the big things that Alchemy is going to need to do is continue to grow, build out its workforce so that it can support an ever wider array of blockchains and applications on top of blockchains, and also provide expert customer service, because blockchains are supposed to be immutable. They're supposed to run 24/7, 365 without issues. That can become problematic. So Alchemy is going to have to continue to provide the same level of service that they've given to their earlier clients. And that is a common trend that I see among a lot of crypto startups. They're always trying to weigh the, in some ways, conflicting impulses to grow, but also to scale. You can't grow too much too fast, but at the same time, if you don't grow, someone else is going to. And there's another very big crypto company that is also trying to stake claim to the title of the AWS of crypto, and that's Coinbase. Coinbase, as most people know, went public this year via direct listing on NASDAQ in April, the largest direct listing in history with an $86 billion valuation. It's the largest exchange in the US. It's the most well-known exchange in the US. The company announced that it was going to be launching an NFT marketplace and got over 1 million signups for the waitlist on the very first day. And Coinbase acquired a company called Bison Trails, which is a similar type of infrastructure company to Alchemy. It's not quite as robust. It doesn't have the same level of technical sophistication right now or the same type of fully fledged product suite, but they're building it and they have the advantage of being part of Coinbase. So anything that they build, be it applications that run on top of the network or applications that interact with Coinbase's software, it comes with a full-fledged integrated customer experience that most people are already familiar with. I mean, Coinbase has tens of millions of verified users, and that's certainly something to take very seriously.